Take two, back at it again. Daniel here within the confines of my vehicle, my E63 AMG, in the basement of where I live. So I figured it's snowing. It's the day before Thanksgiving, and I haven't really made a video in a little bit. So I figure I go on my notes, check my video ideas. I'm looking, how to make a lot of money, shit about war, shit about history. That's kind of boring, and I can kind of just ramble about all that. But let's think about something that I can really speak on with some passion, with some conviction. And what that is today is that you're a slave, I'm a slave. We're all freaking slaves here. So crack your drink and get ready, because I don't know how long I'm going to speak for. Really, at the end of the day, we are all slaves to some degree or another, because think about it. So what did a slave have? And I'm not speaking about, anything in any time period in specific, right? We'd say American Civil War era. We could speak about Revolutionary. We could speak about the Irish slaves. We could speak about, the fucking Egyptians, the fucking Israelis, or the Jews, whatever, under Egypt. There's a million different types of slaves, but what do you need to maintain slaves, right? It's like the big guy, rich guy, big dog. Yeah, I got all the slaves. Look at me, king at the castle. What do you need to do? You need to house them, right? You need to feed them. You need to make sure they don't die due to health conditions. You need to keep them relatively happy so they all don't revolt and kill you with rocks and shit, or whatever they may have access to. You have to prevent all of these things from happening, and you have to provide all of the basics of life. So, think about how expensive that really would be. Obviously, it was profitable, right? Because slavery was and still is massive within the world. But, someone's coming in. Garage. But, it's still massive within the world, so clearly it's profitable. But think about how much that costs, right? So, obviously, we can adjust for inflation and everything. Every time period's different, and what the value of these things is, changes from thing to thing. But at the end of the day, you have to pay for housing. You have to build a house. You have to have a doctor on site or some form of dedicated person to maintain this group of people. Anywhere between 5 and a couple thousand people. It depends. Who are you? Are you freaking king of the world? Are you king champion and you own all the slaves, or are you just some farmer guy who has a couple helpers? There's a big difference there, but you still have to take care of all of these people and make sure that they're healthy, make sure that they're fed, and that costs money. Whereas if you just get a bunch of people to work for you, right, you don't have to pay for their housing. They have to figure that all out themselves. They have to figure out their own health care. They have to figure out their children. They have to figure out, the fun things that they can do, what they're going to eat. They have to figure out all these things on their own. So rather than you being responsible for it and you having to take your time to do this, you just throw that guy, that lady, $40,000 a year and say, hey, figure your shit out and keep working, or you're not going to work here anymore. Thus, you lose your home, your food, your health care, all these things that you need to survive. You're going to lose all of it. So, and at the end of the day, it's we have more to lose now, more comforts to lose now than we did during big slave years, because, we got phones, car, we got frickin' a dog, an apartment, a nice one, nice place to sleep, some LED lights. What did slaves really have? What do they actually have even now? A little hut? What are you really taking from that person? Whereas we're more inclined to stay just because of the necessities that we need to pay for day to day, rather than a slave. It's just go just chill in another hut, maybe even build one yourself. It's probably not that hard to figure out. I bet I could build a dope ass hut, or wherever, slave people live. But, at the end of the day, I would argue that this is worse than generic slavery, being stuck in not well-paying jobs, because, you compare the actual purchasing power parity of the dollar compared to the 70s, it's, obviously adjusted for inflation, it's worth significantly less. Even factoring for inflation, your dollar's worth less. so much less than it was, I forget what it was, but it was like something like in 1910, you got paid the equivalent of a lot of gold. Now it's like the average person gets paid the equivalent of not a lot of gold. And gold obviously has always been worth money, right? So it's really sad at the end of the day, because I don't know necessarily the solution to it. It's just an observation that I've made. Being stuck to a job makes you a slave, and pretty much everyone's stuck to their job. We all have payments and things to take care of one way or another, unless you're straight up, I don't know, unless you got like $2 million in an account and you're just living off interest. You are a slave. I'm a slave. I'm a slave to myself. Like, I have to work. I work off commission, so it's like I have to answer my phone and make calls, or I'm not going to have money, and then I don't have things that I like at the end of the day. So just something to really think about. How can we get out of this? How do we work around this? I figure my plan would be, hey, anyone who is doing basically money laundering, within the government or within big companies, and just kind of rinsing money through levels of bureaucracy and kickbacks, you should probably not be involved with business or being alive, because if you're fucking everyone over, then do you necessarily deserve the same rights as everyone else? And I don't mean fucking everyone over pricing something high. That's just the way she goes. You have full rights to price things high. But for example, these deals with the government where they set up, say, a plan for feeding kids, and they give it $100 million, and then they contract it out to some company, and then that company contracts it out to another company, and that company charges them X amount, say it's 50% of what they actually got paid by the government. Then they just pocket their 50%. That's retarded and terrible. For example, another one, good one, factual one, not anecdotal, or I guess it is anecdotal, an actual thing that happens, is the washers for the screws on F-35s are $300 or $900, and they're normal washers and screws. It's high quality and inspected and whatnot, but there's no reason whatsoever why that would be $300 to $900, besides the fact that they can get that. And really, it's not the company's fault, it's the government's fault for allowing that to happen, and them getting kickbacks from these companies when they say, we'll spend $28 million on screws. That's silly, because a lot of people could use that money. I don't need it, but it makes me sad when I call an old lady and she's like, oh, why would they want it? It's you work your whole life and get told Social Security can take care of you. We don't anymore, so I don't expect you to resonate if you're 20 years old, but if you're an old fuck, then yeah, Social Security was pitched to you your whole life. I remember my grandparents talking about that shit all the time. I don't even think about I don't even know if I have Social Security. I'm self-employed, and everything that comes with that. So it's all screwed. But I think if you remove the bureaucracy, I think that the actual purchasing power of an average American, not per dollar, but overall, their standard of living and ability to make decisions would go way, way up. And you wouldn't have to worry about all these things. For example, oh my gosh, worst thing, I went to the hospital for 3 days back in August. I had strep throat, developed into tonsillitis, which nearly took me out. But anyway, I had to go to the hospital for the first time ever, and I was there for 3 days. Gave me 8 bags of IV because I was very dehydrated, and they gave me a couple bags of antibiotics, and they tested me for a couple things. Mostly just standard labs. I did one CT scan. They gave me a bunch of opiates, which is dope. That was $48,000. Now, of course, I didn't pay all that. I owe them about $4,000. We'll figure that one out when it comes to fruition, when they start really banging my line. But anyway, point being is they actually got paid that much through the insurance company. No wonder health insurance is so much. No wonder everything's fucked. That's crazy. And then what's the nurse getting paid? They suck anyway. I hope they don't get paid anything. But what are they getting paid? $60,000 a year, and that one person in the hospital that has 1,000 beds was $40,000 for 3 days. That's over $10,000 a day, and I wasn't even I was in observation. I wasn't even in ICU or anything crazy like that, or surgery where these people are spending hundreds of thousands. Just food for thought. We're slaves. Not much you can do about it on an individual basis, but definitely something to keep in mind. Maybe maybe an opportunity will come up in the future where you may not have to be a slave. Maybe you can be a king. I'd rather be a king than a slave. I'd be a good king. I'd be a nice king. But hey, slave gang for right now. I will see you guys. Hopefully this isn't too autistic, but yeah, peace.